I'm Matt Kropp, CTO for BCGX. So you know BCG is the strategy firm. BCGX is the 3,000 data scientists and software developers that we have that actually build AI solutions. And so we're out building solutions and advising our clients on how they can think about using GenAI. Climate is a really important topic for us. So BCG is quite focused on climate. We were the consulting partner that supported the latest COP28. We're part of the Breakthrough Energy Catalyst that came out of Breakthrough Energy from Microsoft and Gates. And so really important topic. GenAI is also a huge topic that has gone from nothing to just immense growth. This is the fastest growing topic that we've been involved in, I think maybe ever, but certainly in my time, my 18 years at BCG. So it's great to see these two topics coming together, and we think there's a ton of potential, and we're going to hear tonight about some of the promise for AI really helping to accelerate progress in climate. But I would just offer a perspective on why we're so bullish on generative AI and what that can do for us, but also some asks about how we can think about really making this impactful. So I think there are four things that GenAI brings that we haven't had before, that are totally new. The first is this idea that language is code. So the way that we interact with these models is just with natural language, English or any other language, which is super powerful, not only because I can have a conversational interface, but because it lets our users come up with novel uses for our solutions. So when we build a tool, when we have a knowledge base and we put a chatbot on top of it, and I can ask a question to get an answer, that's great, but that user can also say, do analysis, right? Write a report, create an email. And so if we're thinking about climate solutions, there have to be lots of places where this can actually really supercharge people that are working in the field to do new things. The second is that these models actually have an understanding of the world. They basically sort of know something about everything based on the way that they were trained. It's incredibly powerful because the AI prior to now required a lot of training. I have to give it 1 million examples in order to predict a specific thing. Now when I build a solution, it already understands the basic concepts. I can give it one example of what I want. We've built solutions in the pharma space, for example, where the model actually is an expert chemist. And this is not feeding it new information. It's actually based on what's already in the underlying GPT-4 model. So incredibly powerful for building solutions very quickly, and we think that's going to be a game changer. The third thing is that these models effectively are creative. We can argue whether they are actually creative or seem like they're creative, but as part of the creative process to allow teams to innovate, it's hugely impactful. And then the fourth is, because the models effectively can reason, we're hearing a lot, there's a lot of research being done around creating agents. We can think about actually building tools that automate workflows, but have some reason to them. So workflow automation to date has been very rules-based. We can now move to a space where automation is actually comes up with a plan, follows that set of steps in a plan to achieve something. So all of that's very promising. I think we've seen like the last year, the work that we're doing with enterprises has been a lot of coming up with ideas, proofs of concept. I will say we're now getting to the point where there's some question about whether we're actually getting impact. And so the challenge, I would argue the biggest challenge right now is really adoption. We have these great tools, but the humans have to use the tool. They have to want to use the tool. They have to know how to use the tool. They have to use the tool. And without doing that, we're not going to get any impact. And so a couple of things that are really important here. Maybe I'll give you an example. In the coding space, so there are probably a lot of software developers in here. Hopefully, many of you are using tools like GitHub Copilot to accelerate your software development. In the large enterprise space, in the Fortune 500, we did a survey in December. Only 30% of Fortune 500s are using coding tools like GitHub Copilot. And of those that are actually using those tools, less than half of their developers are actually using them on a daily basis. So here's a population who this technology is perfectly suited for. They should fully understand how to use it. That should be the most eager group, I would think, to adopt these tools, and yet they're not. So reason for caution. Another example, in that case, the coders, they're not really worried about losing their job, right? They're just going to code faster, they're going to do more. In places where people are worried about using their job, you have even worse results. So we saw a case of a company that has a call center. They implemented a chatbot to assist the call center reps, and they got 15% adoption. And they were surprised. Why do we only have 15% adoption? And our response was pretty obvious. Everybody knows the reason why you're implementing the chatbot is because it's going to make your call center more efficient so that you can fire people. So why are they going to use it? Of course they're not going to use it. So we need to be very thoughtful about how we approach bringing these tools to humans so that they'll use them. And one of the frameworks that we're using is this idea of focusing on minimizing toil and maximizing joy. Look at the process. What are the people doing? And where in that process are they doing things that are toil, stuff that they don't want to do? It's not fun, it's a lot of labor, it can be automated. That's what we automate. But look at the parts where they get joy. Why do they enjoy their job? And don't touch that, don't automate that. Leave that for the people. Be intentional about what we design, the robots, the bots, the AI take, and what we have the humans keep for themselves. And then maybe the last thing I'd say is we need to think about the different kinds of applications that we have and the role that the human versus the AI plays. There are going to be applications where we can fully automate. And if we can fully automate, we should, because there we're going to get efficiencies and we don't have to worry about adoption. But when we fully automate, we have to make sure that that bot is accurate. We have to make sure that we have the right guardrails. And actually, there is still a human involved because you still need somebody watching it, monitoring it, curating it, making sure that it's being tuned appropriately. Then there are applications where the AI is going to generate something and you need a human to approve it. Think about regulatory examples. And there's probably a lot in climate where there's a lot of opportunity to generate regulatory documents, but you still need somebody, you need a human to put their signature on it. Well, there we have to be very careful because the bots are quite good. They'll generate really good content, and pretty quickly the human's going to just start to say approve, approve, approve. Well, now you don't actually have oversight. So we need to be thinking about how do we design that process so that maybe we're testing, maybe we're giving them false negative every so often to make sure that they're catching them, or maybe we're actually designing the process so that we don't automate all of the generation. We actually have the human fill in some of the most important parts so that we keep them engaged. And then the last place, and this is probably the most common use case that we're going to see, is where there's a dialogue. The bot and the human are having a conversation. And here, this is using ChatGPT. We all use ChatGPT for various things. When people just go to the bot and ask a question and expect a perfect answer, they're going to get a bad answer. And then very often they're going to say, well, this thing doesn't work. It's not very useful. I'm not going to use it. Instead, we need to get people to understand that they have to have a dialogue. The way this really is productive is I talk back and forth. So I encourage you all to think about what is the human factor in using this technology. It's too important for us. We have to act on climate. We have to move fast. AI is an opportunity to really help accelerate. That mission is too important to lose to not being designing properly for human factors. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.